Wawawiwa. Isabela Ferrer has entered the chat in a really big way. She's opposing the motion brought by the Wayfarer Parties, seeking an order to allow them to serve her by alternative means of service. So they filed a motion saying they couldn't serve her by personal service, and they asked the court for relief to be able to serve her by some other means, and cited to communications that they had with her attorney that was gone unanswered, according to the Wayfarer Party. Now her attorneys are coming into the picture saying, there's more to this story. Let's lay it down for you. They reveal that Ferrer actually was pulled into this lawsuit by Lively herself back in February when a subpoena was issued to her by Lively. And before she responded to that subpoena, she invoked an indemnification provision of her actor agreement with Wayfarer, with It Ends With Us, that basically probably said that Wayfarer will pay for any legal fees associated with actions that come out of your employment. That's very normal. When an employee is involved or implicated in some way, the employer, even if it's for a former employee, an employer will indemnify, meaning that they will front the legal costs for the employee and anything related to an action that arises out of their employment. So text messages, documents coming out of her time on set, on time in the movie, related to the film, that all arises out of her employment. So that would be triggering for an indemnification provision. So they asked for it to be indemnified, and there seems to be some kind of dispute about what that indemnification entails. So typically when an employer indemnifies an employee, it means that they pay for the law firm and they basically control the legal aspect of that process for the employee as if it was their own. So, for example, if I'm an employee of Company X, somebody comes at me and sues me personally, not Company X, then Company X could indemnify and should indemnify me, meaning they provide my legal representation in the lawsuit if it relates to my employment. So the dispute that they appear to be having has to do with the extent of that control of that indemnification. It seems to have led down to the path of arbitration, meaning that the two sides didn't agree to what extent that indemnification extended and how it operated. So they needed an arbitrator to intervene and help them resolve that dispute. The crux of their disagreement appears to be on how the subpoena that Lively issued to Ferrer, how that's responded to. Based off of what's presented in this motion, it appears that Wayfarer had said that we will control the response to the subpoena since we're indemnifying you. And Ferrer said, no, I want to be able to control what is produced, and I want to be able to control who I hire to represent me. But I expect you, Wayfarer, to just pay for it. We don't have the other side of the story to this. We just have what's presented here in this opposition. This was not an issue that Wayfarer brought forward to the court. It's an issue that Ferrer is bringing to the court. So that's pretty much all we can glean based off of this filing. However, the opposition doesn't stop there. It goes on to seek sanctions against Baldoni specifically for even daring to bring such a subpoena against her. They claim that it's harassing and that they should have never subpoenaed her to begin with. I think that's a pretty weak argument because discovery is meant to be broad, is meant to cast a wide net. I didn't read anything in this motion that made it seem particularly onerous to her. For some reason, she didn't want to turn over the things that she turned over to Lively over to the Wayfarer Parties. What I do find a bit strange about this filing is that it names Baldoni specifically as opposed to the Wayfarer parties. And I think that there is some strategic reason for doing that. Clearly, it's not specifically Baldoni that is subpoenaing those records. It's the Wayfarer parties or Wayfarer itself that's subpoenaing those records. So it seems really strategic to write this motion, use Baldoni to represent all of these parties. Here I am making another video and it's getting dark, so I'm gonna wrap it up. It seems clear to me that on some level, Ferrer and Lively are cooperating behind the scenes. Now, Ferrer has asked for Wayfarer to indemnify her, meaning pay for her legal fees, but it does seem that there is some cooperation with the Lively side here. And the reason for that is that the motion, the opposition to the motion, the language used in the filing appears to follow the same kind of tone and thematic elements of Justin Baldoni is an abuser and this is a perpetuation of harassment. It seems to follow those themes that Lively's filings seem to have. So to me, this speaks to some kind of background coordination between Ferrer and Lively. Nowhere in the opposition do they address the fact that they just didn't respond to whether or not they will accept service of the subpoena or not, and why they just wouldn't. Instead, they say, we shouldn't even have to respond to this subpoena. So I think that the court is going to issue the question that was brought to them by the Wayfarer parties, which is, can they serve her by alternative means? And that's it.